As entrepreneurs, there's a reason why we decided to leave our 9 to 5 for an 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. I'm here to tell the stories of why we all hustle and grind for our companies. On today's podcast, I'm speaking with Geoffrey Klein. So, Geoffrey, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really, really appreciate it. You have this world that you're in that I love, where, in the past 12 months, you've done AI, you're a content marketer turned AI nerd. And I really appreciate that a lot because I'm also big into the AI thing and I like my tech. So looks like it's going to be an awesome conversation today. Really appreciate you having it.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Anytime. So we heard in your intro from your bio kind of what you do, but I always love to hear people say it in their own words. So what is your ninja skill? What is that one thing that you're really good at that you like to share with the world?
Yeah, I think my ninja skill or superpower is the ability to take things that are sometimes complex or hard to describe and simplify them so they're easy to digest.
Mhm.
And I do that both in kind of the production work I do. So the idea is that someone wants to explain what their business does, what their value proposition, create something that's going to resonate with their audience, and I help them extract from them the story that they should tell in order to showcase the value they bring to people. And then also, I teach at two different universities, and I am a professional speaker, and so I think of myself as an educator in everything I do.
Mhm.
And in particular with AI, I think there's everyone is experiencing what I refer to as AI overwhelm. And
Mhm.
so what I'm trying to do is help people demystify AI, have some kind of, we have marketing strategy, we have social media strategy. Every company should start be thinking about the AI strategy. And it's, I think, a little daunting with how fast it's moving, but it's still there's some fundamental things in terms of getting prepared that I try and help people with. So to kind of um, have that clarity through all the noise, so that you're not paralyzed by it, but you can actually start to embrace it and leverage the incredible tool that AI is.
Absolutely. And I think when I saw ChatGPT come out, there were so many people out there going, I'm an AI expert. I have, I do this thing. AI is the huge thing. And it's this massive buzzword right now. And I think it falls into a category that I put marketing in as well to some extent, where it's about, there are some good folks out there in marketing. There's some good marketing companies. A lot of them are not. There's some good AI companies out there. There's
Mm.
some good people that know about AI. That's not the vast majority. And so you actually went to the extent of getting some extra certifications in it,
I
which I
did.
think gets you the extra little bit, right? Tell us a little bit about how
Yeah.
that happened.
So there was I don't, about a year ago, I had been, I'm a early adopter of technology. I had a Palm Pilot, and I was on bulletin board systems before the internet, and I'm what I refer to myself as an NTG, a non-technical geek, because I'm not a
Uh,
techie guy. I can't go and code and do that stuff, but I love what technology does, and I love what it can do, and I always am interested in playing with whatever is new and out there. And so for me, I was kind of hesitant with AI, and I don't know why. I was probably a little late to the party because I was like, I think I recognized once I opened the door, I would fall in, and it would consume me, and that's kind of what's happened,
uh,
but in a good way. I've been referring. Jerry Seinfeld did the commencement speech at Duke, and he talked about how everyone's all looking for their passion, and he's saying passion's kind of sweaty and kind of people around you look funny. And he said, what I'd recommend is finding something that fascinates you. And I think that's a really good distinction. And I think that's how I feel about AI. It really fascinates me. And so I'm an expert because of the people I listen to who are further ahead than I am. So
uh,
it's the word expert or guru. I don't like that title.
yeah.
I'm an AI educator almost. I am using the term AI humanist because I think there's an important piece about how you interact and use AI, as well as how what you're using it for, and having the human element and a kind of human centered AI is something that I'm fascinated and passionate about, and trying to help people understand it. But to me, it's teaching someone something is incredibly fulfilling, and so I've been fortunate enough to learn and spend, other people spend lots of time learning something, then they share it with me, and then I'm like, okay, here's the parts I think people need to know and things they don't need to know, and now I can share it with people in a way. And again, that's what I'm pretty good at doing, is sharing things in a way that like, oh, I get it now. And now I know what to do, and trying to be helpful to them to apply, whether it's AI or content marketing, whatever it is, so that it can benefit them in their business.
No, I want to dig a little deeper into what you were saying about human-centered AI.
Mm-hmm.
Two divergent, terms there. I would love to hear some more about what you mean by that and what you actually are saying. What is this thing, and why'd you come up with that term?
Yeah, I've been playing with a couple different terms. At one point, an AI optimist, um, and I think there's a woman, Kate O'Reilly, I'm not 100%, but who wrote it. If you look up te- techno humanist,
Hmm.
and then there was Andreessen Horowitz had written a paper called the Techno um, Optimist Manifesto.
Hmm.
And so these were the things that were kind of swirling in my head. I was thinking about what is my perspective about AI, and I think others have talked about keeping the human in the loop. And so for me, being an AI humanist means two things. One, it's about how you approach actually interacting with AI, meaning that you're not relying on AI to do the work without having a human in the loop. And I talk about the human bookends in AI. So you need to have a human at the front end of AI to understand how to talk to it. And the great thing is that AI is getting very conversational, but also about how you prompt it. And though there's a lot of discussion about prompt engineering, and I think there's kind of eventually AI is going to help us do that. But
Hmm.
there's still an art and science to how you interact with AI. And I think part of it is about being the human that's, needed. It's needed in the process. And then obviously you still need a human at the end of the process, both for tweaking and clarifying things, because it's not a one and done. It's not like you prompt an AI, it gives you the answer, you go, oh, great, here we go. It's
Hmm.
about having that conversation. And again, a lot of people have talked about AI as an assistant or a really good intern or a junior associate. And I think that's how you should think about AI as a human. I think it will help in terms of getting the results you want, talking to like a human, challenging it like a human, telling it when it gets it wrong, telling it it's not quite what you're looking for. It's that clarification and switching little parts of getting closer to what you want. But even when you're done that process, that iterative process of going back and forth, then you have to take the output and then make sure it's accurate. Make sure it's
Yeah.
not just accurate in terms of not hallucinating, which is getting better and better, but it's still a thing. But
Uh-huh.
also that it's accurate for what you're trying to communicate. So it's
Uh-huh.
not just like, oh yeah, this link is right and that's something, but is it actually, as a brand person, making sure that the results you're getting align with what it is the message you're trying to share. So
Hmm.
those are the kind of two ways. And then the second way about the humanist is about being mindful of the risks and challenges of AI and
Hmm.
making sure that you are being ethical and responsible using it. And it's a whole discussion that's been evolving and debating about different regulations. Um, I'm not a doomer who thinks you need to regulate the heck out of it, and I'm not an EAC, the effective acceleration on that thinks there should be no regulation
Yeah.
and AI at all costs.
Yeah.
I'm kind of in the middle, but I think that's why I think an optimist and a humanist. To me, it's about recognizing those dangers, making sure there are people who are doing things, and there are, thankfully. I'm not an activist,
Hmm.
but I think in terms of my approach to AI, how I share the way to use it with others and how I use it myself fits into that AI humanist.
Yeah. And I think with any new technology or anything new, there's going to be pluses and minuses to it. It's like a hammer. I can go out and,
Right.
bash somebody's hand in, or I can go out and build a house with it. There's pluses and minuses to both of them. And I think, regulation is going to be part of it, but regulation
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't be your go-to. Let this thing grow, let it figure out what it is. People like yourself going out and speaking on this, saying, here is my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
and talk it through and see what this new technology can do. And I think that's the best way to handle that. Yeah. Well, and
Yeah. And the other thing I say about it is like the genie's out of the bottle.
yeah.
So, and what a lot of people have said, and I kind of agree with it, like if the democratic Western, society doesn't take the lead,
Mhm.
then some other people may.
Yeah.
And so I think there's, burying your head in the sand is the worst thing we can do. And we need to find that balance as we have with
Mhm.
other technology throughout. I mean, we have nuclear weapons, and it's like
Hmm.
we've had other technology that can be destructive, like the hammer you said, but it
Yeah.
also probably will solve energy problems. So it's you have to look at the balance and approaching it with a thoughtful perspective.
Yeah. And you were mentioning hallucination, which is something that AI is doing right now, where it comes up with this weird,
Right.
answer. It's like, where the hell did that come from? And this still is, there's some limitations to I think there was a joke going around when AI's Gemini AI first came out that, there was somebody posted something of it saying how to keep the cheese on a pizza. And the AI
Yeah.
said, put glue on it.
Glue.
And I'm
Yeah.
not 100% sure if this was hallucination or Skynet trying to call the herd, but I wasn't quite sure what
Well,
was going on there.
I, I'll give you a practical tip just about that specifically, because that was when Google's overviews came
Yeah.
on search.
Yes.
So rather
Yes.
than search being the links, it was giving overviews. And the reason I think Google was trying to quickly do that was because of a rival called
Oh yeah.
Perplexity.ai, which is what I don't use Google for search anymore. I use
Yeah.
Perplexity.
Yeah. Oh,
Um, and Perplexity does it really well. And
okay.
Google has had a few missteps with some of its image generation and its hallucination. Yeah. But it's early and they will fix it and they will get better. And I think that's especially someone like Google, people like, oh, but they have the capital, the manpower, the determination to make it to fix it and have it perform a lot better than putting glue to keep the cheese on.
Exactly. And having seen various AIs and neural nets and various things come through, there's been a couple of really good ones over the years. When it came out back in the mid 90s, IBM's Watson was like the coolest thing in the
Mm-hmm.
world. And it's still a relatively powerful AI. It's not close to what any of the new ones are,
Right.
but it still was pretty revolutionary for its day. It won at Jeopardy, right? But when ChatGPT came out, I think that was our next big leap, and I think everyone's now trying to scramble to keep up with ChatGPT. And it's just, yeah. However, I had ChatGPT try to make an ad for me the other day. It's like half of it was in
Mm,
Russian. I mean, it was bad.
yeah.
It's not even close. So copy
Yeah,
Klein, as you're saying.
I read this in an article about AI. They said, and I sometimes use this in my presentation, we greatly overestimate where AI is now,
Yes.
but we greatly underestimate where AI will be
Yes.
in the next couple years.
Yes.
Like
Mhm.
it's not where it's not a replacement for everything.
Uh,
Um,
yeah.
and it will never be a replacement for everything. That's my feeling. Um, it's getting becoming an incredible tool that I also strongly believe you have to start learning.
Yeah.
One of the things that's really, I think, a problem for a lot of organizations is they're doing one of two things. Either they're burying their head in the sand and saying, the leadership saying we're not going to use any of these tools, but those organizations, people are using them, they're just not telling anyone about them.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
the second version of a challenge is that the leadership says, "Yep, we're going to embrace it," and they just give everyone ChatGPT licenses and say, "Go for it,"
Mhm.
without any education, without any training, without showing them how to use these things. So I think the next, in terms of adoption, the next big stage will be where people start to really embrace learning and education and training of AI to use it effectively and to really maximize the potential it has.
Absolutely, because it is a very profound tool, and I use it. ChatGPT is really really good, and I use the newest model where I give it a bunch of bullet
Mhm.
points and go here, write something on this, and it's really really good at doing that. It helps me to kind of or what are give me like 10 topics for videos, and I have it
Mhm.
customized so it knows what I do, and it can go through and do it's a great tool for that, but it doesn't do everything. Yeah, right. It's going to take a little while, but I think just Moore's law is going to be, where technology doubles, it keeps
Mhm.
doubling itself. I think Moore's law is going to be a part of AI, and I think we're going to see it do some really awesome things in the near future. So yeah, that's why I wanted to talk to you quite a bit about that, is because it's a new tool, and once people start to get used to it, kick the tires, and folks like you, like early adopters, who are like, let's start kind of going out there and being an evangelist for this, it's going to become a very major part of our lives, more of a major part of our lives. I think it already is, but yeah.
It's going to disrupt everything if
Yes.
it hasn't already, and
Yep. Yep.
that's a good thing. I think that's the thing is in the marketing and business we like, oh, disruption is good, except if you're the status quo people, and that's I
Yes.
think the challenge is like we've had the ability to have cleaner energy vehicles but there's a lot of people who, rely on the old
Mhm.
way of doing things. And there was a quote, about giving people what they want, and I think it was Henry Ford who said something along the lines of when he started the car. It was like, if I give the people what they want, I would just give them a better horse or a faster horse.
Yes,
Like,
exactly,
some
exactly.
people need to, recognize like we need to go forward, always go forward, and that's why AI forward is kind of a concept that people need to embrace and think about. How can this be helpful to what I'm already doing?
Yeah, I think the
Enhance it.
exact yeah, I think the exact quote was if I asked people what they wanted, they would tell me a better horse. And it's just
Right.
like, yeah, they don't understand what that difference is. And I think they don't understand what that difference is and what the new thing coming out is. And I think folks like
Mhm.
Steve Jobs or entrepreneurs in general, that's what we do is we go out and say, I reject your reality. I substitute my own. We're going
Right.
to come up with this new cool thing and we're going to totally disrupt it, an entire industry. Yeah. Yeah. Doing things like, Elon Musk with Tesla. I mean, I have a huge amount of respect for him because they come up with a
Mhm.
completely new motor technology to make this work. I mean, just completely new motor technology, completely new battery technology, completely new tech, and totally disrupted an industry that had been around for over 100 years. And so I think it's really interesting. The disruptors are the ones that I love to watch. You know? So I want to pivot for a little bit because you also have another side of you that does things. So
Mhm.
you've got your Nine Dots AI as that one company, and that's going to be releasing. And let's see, yep, Nine Dots, and then talk a little bit more about the Content Beast, your book. Let's start
Mm.
there.
Sure. So I've been a marketer for a long time, and I when I started my marketing company probably 10 years ago, I was like, "What do you need?" And so I did a lot of different things.
Uh,
And then I realized like focusing had its benefit, and the benefit was I would get better at that one area, and it was
uh-huh.
also the area that I got the most kind of juice from and fulfillment and things like that. So I stopped doing a lot of different marketing things and focused primarily on content. So
Mhm.
producing video and animation content for explainer videos and brand videos. Um, and I was also a speaker, and so I was talking about storytelling was kind of the mantle of what I talked about. It's what my TEDx is about. And then I was like, okay, visual storytelling. And now it became about, well, content marketing is what I believe is kind of a powerful thing. Rather than just advertising, it's about creating content that then draws people to you. Um, and in one of my presentations, I would say, you know, every business has to feed the beast, the content beast. And so
Yeah.
that's how I came up with the title for the book. And it's really a primer to try and help people understand why they need to feed the beast, who they're really feeding, what to feed the beast, and how to do it. And it includes a bunch of narratives in there, stories to try and, which I believe is a good way that's the best way to connect with people,
Mhm.
as well as some practical tips and things like that to help you. So because if you're, if you're a small business or even if you're a big business, you got to get your head around like how do we create consistent, relevant, valuable content that's going to attract our ideal audience.
Mhm. Okay. Awesome. And so you started off as a lawyer. How did you get into content marketing? What was a
Well,
series
let
of
me let me
events?
let me correct you. I never was a lawyer. I did go
Okay.
to law. I graduated from law
Okay.
school,
Got it. Okay.
um, and I actually had moved already. So I went to Temple in Philadelphia for 2 years. People
Uh-huh.
joke I was a law school dropout, but I finished my credits in California, where I also started working in the film industry. So
Okay.
I that was my kind of transition, and I think law school happened in part. I have a family history. My father and grandfather are judges, but also I
Okay.
wasn't ready to move to LA. So by
Mm.
after my second year, I'm like, I'm ready. And so I went to LA and I fulfilled this dream of working in the industry, working at Paramount Pictures, MGM, and it was amazing.
Mm.
Um, but one of the things as an entrepreneur, I think, and just life in general, which is I love the John Lennon quote: "Life is what happens while you're busy making other plans." And so,
True.
and things you can't plan for everything. And so I fell in love. So I fell in love with a woman
Yeah.
who, and we had no family in LA, so we decided to move to one of our hometowns. We ended up going to her hometown,
Uh,
Manchester, England.
oh
So I
wow.
moved to
Nice.
Manchester, England, and I'm like, what am I doing here? And so I ended up creating a real estate company with my father-in-law, which
Uh-huh.
I'm not a fan of real estate particularly, and so that was a bit frustrating. And
Yeah.
eventually, I was like, I got to do something else. And marketing was like a really good fit for me because I had kind of the creative side. I'd worked with creatives, but now I had a business analytical side, both from law school and from real estate. And so I found marketing to be the answer for what I was working towards. And then from there, it then evolved into content marketing, video, and I mean, video and animation, obviously from my love of movies and things like that.
Mhm.
And then I'd always been interested in speaking, so that's always been something. I was giving presentations on licensing law, and because I own a bunch of British pubs, and I
Uh-huh.
wanted to present, but I was like, that's what I know right now, so that's what I'm
That's
gonna
where we're at.
so yeah, so again, I think, and I made these pivots, for entrepreneurs. I think it's important to recognize I didn't just like drop my job and move. I didn't just
Mhm.
quit. I usually had what I think, you take. I don't think of myself as being risk averse, but if you look at my behavior, you might say otherwise. And I think the
Mhm.
difference is I like to take calculated risks, and I'm a planner. So it wasn't like, oh, when I decided I want to work in the film industry, and I had a lot of people saying, well, how are you going to do that? And I'm like, well, I'm going to meet people. And so to have a strategy for whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, looking at what other people have done and figuring out what's the path that will work for you and being intentional about it, telling people, I make a distinction. I never got this in a book yet, but maybe it'll be a blog called Smart Luck. So dumb luck is when you're walking down the street and look down, there's 20 bucks, you pick it up, you stick it in your pocket.
Mhm.
Smart luck is you want to be an actor? Take some acting classes, start to talk to people. And so it's the idea of putting yourself in a position to be successful by doing the things that will help you, in the aggregate get to where you want to go. It's not like a magic wand just clicks and all of a sudden you're this, but you work towards it. And so I had an actual midlife crisis plan about what I was going to do when I decided real estate was, sucking my will to live. And so
Uh-huh.
I had a path and I followed it fairly well because of that intention
Huh.
and working hard towards and having those uh, smart goals that were flexible enough that when something came along, you'd be like, oh wait, I got to just maneuver here and navigate a little here, and then but you're still going forward.
Hmm. Interesting. And then, so let's go a little bit farther on that. You said so your main thing right now is production, explainer, and brand videos. So it just came from your experience in Hollywood. You went into that specific specialty and kind of animated stuff. And tell the people that may not know what that is, tell them a little bit more about it.
Yeah, so I worked on one animated movie while I was in LA. I worked on the South Park movie,
Oh,
which
nice.
I was, a little peon. My boss was actually, the president of production at Paramount, and it was an incredible experience to watch. But I didn't go there thinking, oh, I want to work in animation. Like that was never my real pursuit. When I got into marketing and starting my own company, I was doing all these different things, and I had thought about doing video pretty early on, but didn't know. I'm not a videographer. I'm not an editor. Like, but I'm a producer in the sense that I think about, okay, what is it we need to accomplish? What's the budget? Who are the people that I can put together to try and craft what we need, and how do I extract from the client what it is that's important to share for their audience? And so knowing the audience, I in my book I came up with the 11th commandment: know thy audience, which I think for marketers is
Yeah.
one of the most fundamental things you need to do because no one cares what you can do; they only care about what you can do for them.
Hmm.
And so videos seem natural to me because of my experience. It's not the same, other than you have a budget and a schedule, and you usually don't keep to either.
Hmm.
Um, but I think my job as a producer is to both plan and then put out fires. That's things aren't working. I was doing a shoot down in the Jersey Shore, and I saw a few days before we were supposed to do it, it was going to rain, and we were going to shoot outside, and it was not going to work. So
Uh-huh.
we had to postpone it, and I had to coordinate between the people that were going to come and through the client and recognize. And thankfully, we shot it 2 weeks later, and it was great. So it's about being resilient and resourceful, and those are things I think as an entrepreneur and as a video and animation producer you need to be. The other thing is about your team. So I say I'm a producer. So I have an amazing two guys that do videography that I work with. I have three different animators I work with who are just really good at their specialty. Now, if AI takes over that whole plan, I'll be okay because I'm a producer. And when I use a videographer or an AI resource, um, I'll still be able to produce content. I do think that the creatives are the ones who can win by embracing AI.
Yeah.
Rather than worrying about it replacing them, it can really enhance. And even with things now, the video, there are people who are using video like Sora,
Mhm.
ChatGPT Sora, which blew everyone away. It's not good enough. It
Yeah.
can't take, they were doing a production company had access to it, and they created a video with someone who had a balloon head, and the
Uh-huh.
balloon was different every shot. But
Yeah.
they were able to use traditional post production to start to map out things. And so I think where AI will come in is it will be able to fix something that's not quite right, and it'll be, it's going to be a while before it replaces Hollywood studios.
True.
Um, and I think what will happen first, there'll be a stage where certain production companies will start to leverage AI to get a competitive advantage. And that's kind of how I look at AI generally is if
Mhm.
you don't start thinking about how AI can integrate into the tasks that you do in the job that you do, you will be at a competitive disadvantage.
Yeah.
And so it's just a necessity.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, I use AI in what I do as well. I had a keynote that I had to
Right.
show a car. It was a specific Subaru that a client he'd driven from Connecticut to Phoenix. It's like one of those, I'm going to go move to Phoenix, and it had a plan behind it. But
Right.
I wanted to have this one specific image. And so I had ChatGPT go through and do, and it did an excellent job at packing a
Yeah.
car absolutely full. And, but like you were talking earlier, I had tried to do an ad for me, and half of it was in Russian, and it just was not,
Yeah.
it's very hit or miss.
Yeah. It's not there yet, but
No.
it's coming.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of, the agent perspective where now if you want to go on a trip, it can give you the whole itinerary.
Yeah.
Soon it will be able to then book those things for you, book my hotel based on the parameters you give it.
Mhm.
But it's exciting. I find it exciting. I know there are people who are a little worried. Um, and as I said in my TEDx, the line that has stuck with me is, I'm excited and scared at the same time.
Yep. I think that's called being an entrepreneur, if I'm right. That's kind of what that
I think you're
is.
right.
Excited and scared
100%.
and intimidated all at once. Yeah, exactly.
100%.
So, as we're kind of wrapping up a little bit, I do want to go into your Nine Dots AI, which is going to be releasing,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd like to talk a little bit more about what that is and what it does.
Sure. So basically, Nine Dots Media is the production arm, which
Mhm.
is video and animation, and then Nine Dots AI will be everything related to my speaking, to workshops I do, to training and education. So workshops on AI. I have a workshop on AI literacy, which is kind of like what do you need to know to start, and then it's about AI competency, which is about okay, now you've been using it, how do you actually start to optimize how you use it, and then as a consultant, I'll be helping people come up with their AI roadmap. So what does it mean? What are the pilot cases you're going to do first? Who's going to be in charge of it? What's your AI policy? Who's
Mhm.
what are things people can and can't do? And really start to map out over 3 to 6 months how you start to integrate AI in a more um, thoughtful, strategic way than just, oh, here we have ChatGPT, let me start using it. But actually saying, wait, let's slow down and actually look at, okay, let's identify the use cases and figure out how, let's test a few of them and see how it works and what doesn't work. And so again, I'm a big fan of the quote, if you uh, fail to plan, you plan to fail. And so with anything you're going to do in your business, you should think about, okay, what's the roadmap from where you are to where you want to get. And so my intention is to help people do that with AI.
Absolutely. So again, as we're wrapping up here, I do want to say, is there one podcast or book that you'd like to give to the audience as sort of a give back to something that's really helped you, something that's really brought something significant to your life?
Yeah, I'm going to give one that's kind of a entrepreneur tactical one, and then a podcast that's been particularly good for me, but can be helpful with people, particularly in the AI overwhelmed space. The book that I would recommend to entrepreneurs that I think really made a difference in terms of how my company functioned was Profit First by Michael Michalowicz.
Mhm.
A lot of entrepreneurs, if you've gone through the Profit First process, it it's a fantastic way to make sure you have money to pay your taxes and to do other things and making sure you have money. Oh, your accountant says to you, "Oh, we made 10 grand this year." I'm like, "Oh, where is it?" And he's like, "Well, like," because one of the things they talk about is that an entrepreneur will spend whatever money they have, and so this is
Yes.
about being disciplined about paying yourself and allocating money and getting in the habit of that. I think that's important. And it's changed me going, oh wait, I need to pay my tax bill. I need to find some money there anything under the mattress? Like, so to have it really kind of systematized in that way. And then the
Uh,
podcast I'll recommend is, I listen to it religiously, it's called the Artificial Intelligence Show.
hmm,
And it's Paul Reutzer and Matt Kaput, who he's the founder and the chief content officer of an organization called the Marketing AI Institute. And what they do every week, they spend an hour and give you all the information, all the news you need to know about what's going on in AI.
hmm.
It's fantastic. And these guys, I just find they're really approachable, really smart, and really kind of common sense about what's going on
Hmm.
in the world of AI. And so it's like, I can't recommend it. If you have any interest in AI, I think it's a great place to start. Um, and they're just really good guys and do an amazing job in terms of educating people about what's going on in AI.
Interesting. Awesome. Well, Geoffrey, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate having you here.
It has been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Andrew.
Thank you. Thanks again for joining us on the Hustle and Grind podcast. If you'd like to learn more about Geoffrey, check out the link in the description.